The hook the year was 3029, far above Earth. A silver ship moved silently through the black sea of space. It was shaped like a giant blade, smooth and sharp, glowing with cold blue lights. Inside, the Zorath Collective's finest exploration crew studied the dead planet below. Their scanners swept over mountains, oceans, and broken cities. There were no signs of life, no voices, no movements, nothing but the echo of a world that had been silent for over a century. Captain Velrun stood on the command deck, his tall frame covered in dark armor, his eyes, bright like molten gold, stared at the blue and green sphere. "Earth," he said, his voice calm but certain. "Our new colony." The crew around him nodded, for the Zorath. This was not the first world they had claimed, and to them, Earth looked perfect, rich in resources, and now completely empty. The first landing team touched down in the ruins of what humans once called New York. The air was heavy with dust. Tall buildings leaned like tired giants, their glass long shattered. Cars lay rusted and half-buried under layers of dirt. Nature had taken back the streets, vines wrapped around traffic lights. Trees grew through the broken windows of skyscrapers. A river of silence flowed through every street. "Life signs?" Velrun asked through his helmet comm link. "None, Captain," came the reply. "Not even insects," Velrun gave a slow nod. "Begin resource scans, set up base camp, and prepare the reclamation units." The Zorath moved like shadows through the ruins. They cut open walls, scanning for metals and power sources. Their drones flew overhead, mapping every block. Everything seemed routine, until a faint sound broke the silence. It was a voice, soft at first, but growing clearer. One single word repeated again and again. "Leave, leave, leave." The signal came through their comms. Some crew members laughed. An old human broadcast. One soldier said, "Probably a warning message that's been looping for centuries." Velrun didn't laugh. "Pinpoint the source," he ordered. His voice was low. His instincts told him something wasn't right. 3 drones were sent to track the signal. They moved through dark streets, scanning every shadow. The first drone disappeared without a sound. The second drone sent back a flash of movement, then static. The third drone screamed its last image into the network. A figure, standing in the dark. A human. The image lasted only a second. A man tall, dressed in dark weather-worn armor. His face partly hidden behind a mask. His eyes sharp and cold. Then the screen went black. The crew was silent. Velrun's golden eyes narrowed. "This planet is not empty," he said, and somewhere below, hidden among the ruins, Alex Carter listened to their every word. He had been waiting for years, every day, watching the skies, every night, preparing for the day they came. His parents had told him the stories. How the first alien ships came 100 years ago. How humanity fought and fell. How the survivors went deep underground. Alex was just a child then. Now he was the last one on the surface. The guardian of a dead city, he moved through the ruins. Like a shadow, he knew every street, every tunnel, every broken building. The aliens thought they were hunting him, but in truth, they had already stepped into his trap. He had the advantage of the land, he had patience, and he had nothing left to lose. Above, Velrun sent more soldiers into the streets. They searched in teams, scanning every corner, but the city seemed to swallow them. One moment they were walking together, the next, one of them would vanish. No shots, no alarms, just gone. A young alien officer approached Velrun. "Captain, this human. He is dangerous." Velrun looked at the broken skyline. The shadows seemed to move with the wind. "We will find him," he said. "But be ready. This one will not die easily." In the distance, Alex climbed the side of a ruined tower. He watched the alien soldiers move below. He counted their numbers. He studied their weapons. He spoke into his small, old radio. "Leave," he whispered. His voice carried through the city once more. And for the first time in many years, he allowed himself a thin, cold smile. Because Earth was not empty, and it was not theirs to take. First contact, the ruins of New York were no longer silent. The sound of alien boots echoed through cracked streets. Zorath soldiers moved in groups, their armor glowing faintly in the dark. Their helmets scanned every shadow, but the shadows belonged to someone else, someone who knew this city better than they ever could. Alex Carter watched them from high above, perched on the edge of a broken skyscraper. The wind pulled at his torn jacket. His breathing was slow, steady. Through the cracked glass of his visor, his eyes followed every movement below. They thought they were the hunters. They were wrong. Velrun's voice cut through the cums of his soldiers. "Capture the human alive," he ordered. "I want to know how he survived." The soldiers obeyed, fanning out in every direction. They moved with precision, but their enemy was faster. The first group entered a narrow alley. Their scanners picked up nothing, but in the shadows, a tripwire waited. One step, and the wire snapped. A rusted water tower above them tipped over. Thousands of gallons of filthy water crashed down. The soldiers stumbled, blinded. By the time they cleared their vision, the human was gone. The second group advanced through an old subway entrance. The air was cold and thick with dust lights from their helmets sliced through the dark. But the tunnels were not empty, they were rigged. Metal debris fell from the ceiling, cutting the soldiers off from the exit. A single light flickered ahead. And there, standing just beyond reach, was Alex. He didn't run. He didn't speak. He simply stared, then turned and vanished into the black, above ground. Velrun studied the reports. Every unit he sent came back shaken. Not from wounds, but from something worse. They were afraid. This one man had turned the entire city into his weapon. Every corner was a trap, every shadow a threat. Velrun's second-in-command approached. "Captain, permission to use heavy drones," he said. Velrun's eyes narrowed. "No, not yet." He replied, "He is clever. If we crush the city, we lose the chance to learn from him." In the heart of the ruins, Alex found a quiet place between two collapsed towers. He checked his old rifle. The weapon was scratched, patched together with pieces from alien tech, but it worked. He had taken it from the first Zorath soldier he ever killed, a reminder of the day he decided no more invaders would walk freely. On his planet, as night fell, the city seemed to come alive with strange sounds. Metal groaning in the wind, the faint crack of glass under unseen feet. The aliens looked at the dark streets and felt the weight of unseen eyes. Some began to whisper through private comms. "Maybe the human is not alone." Alex heard those whispers through his hacked receiver. A thin smile touched his lips. Turned the radio dial. His voice filled their helmets again. Low, steady, almost calm. "You should have stayed away," he said. "Now you will never leave." High above, Velrun stood at the edge of his landing craft, looking down at the city swallowed by night. He could feel it now, the presence of something old, something stubborn, something that would fight until its last breath. He realized then that this was not a simple mission. This was a war, and it had already begun. Asterisk. The reveal: the night was cold. Alien lights swept over the streets, but the human never showed himself. Velrun stood on the cracked roof of an old bank. He knew the human was watching. He could feel the weight of his gaze. And then, without warning, the alien comms crackled to life. A voice spoke. It was deep, steady, and filled with something the Zorath rarely heard: defiance. "You think I am just one man," the voice said. "You think I am alone." Velrun froze. This was no old recording. This was the human speaking directly to them. "You are wrong," the voice continued. "My name is Alex Carter, and I am the last defender of the surface." The alien soldiers looked at each other, some with confusion, some with unease. Velrun remained still, listening. "Your kind came here once before," Alex said. 100 years ago. And you burned the sky, and you poisoned the seas. But we did not vanish. We adapted." The city around them seemed to grow quieter. Even the wind felt still. Velrun's mind filled with questions, but before he could speak, Alex's voice changed. It grew softer, as if speaking to someone who was not there. "My father died in the first battle," he said. "He stood on the Golden Gate Bridge and held back your soldiers until his rifle was empty. My mother took me underground. She told me to remember two things: Earth is our home, and you never surrender it." A flash of memory burned in Alex's mind. The sky above the city glowing red from alien fire. Buildings falling like sandcastles in the tide. People running, screaming, vanishing into the ground. He had been a child, clutching his mother's hand. But even then, he had sworn to return to the surface. "I have lived here ever since," Alex said. "I know every stone, every shadow, every sound the city makes. And I have waited for the day you would come back." Velrun finally spoke into his come. "Why protect a dead world?" he asked. Alex's voice came back without hesitation. "Because it's not dead. It sleeps. And when it wakes, you will be gone." Far below, in the tunnels, lights flickered. In the darkness, figures moved, quiet, unseen, human. Figures. Velrun caught the movement from the corner of his eye. And for the first time since landing, he began to wonder if the human was truly alone. Alex ended the transmission with a final sentence. "Leave now, and you live. Stay, and you will join the bones of the last invaders." The coms went silent, but in the dark, the war drums of the city began to beat again, slow at first. Then faster. Velrun knew he had stepped into something far greater than a simple reclamation mission. And deep down, he felt the first spark of doubt. Escalation. The city woke with violence. It started with a single blast. A Zorath supply drone burst into flames above the ruins. Its wreckage rained down like burning metal rain before the smoke cleared. A second explosion ripped through a patrol unit. Velrun's soldiers scattered, searching for the source, but the source was everywhere. Alex had studied them. He knew how they moved, how they thought. He placed traps where they least expected them. A pile of rubble hiding a pressure mine. A loose beam that would snap under weight and crush the unwary. Every step the aliens took was a gamble, and most of them lost. Velrun called for the heavy walkers. Tall machines with 4 armored legs and energy cannons. They marched into the streets, their footsteps shaking the ground. Alex watched them. From a shattered rooftop, he didn't look afraid. He only looked patient. When the first walker reached the middle of 5th Avenue, a hidden cable snapped. The road beneath it collapsed. The machine plunged into a sinkhole lined with jagged steel beams. Its cannon fired wildly as it fell. The explosion lit the sky. The other walkers froze. Alex had turned the city itself into his weapon. The aliens responded with more force gunfire. Tore through the streets. Buildings crumbled under energy blasts. But the human was never where they fired. He was a shadow, a voice on their coms, a ghost they could not catch. Velrun began to realize something dangerous. This was not random resistance. It was war strategy. This human fought like a soldier, not just any soldier, a master of his terrain. Every street, every building, every broken subway tunnel was part of his plan. As the fighting raged, fear began to grow in the alien ranks. They spoke in low voices when they thought their coms were off. Some whispered of seeing more than one human. Others claimed they heard footsteps in places Alex could not be. Velrun dismissed it at first, but even he began to notice patterns. Sometimes Alex's voice came from one side of the city, while an attack happened far on the other side. Alex knew they were starting to doubt, and he fed that doubt. Sometimes he attacked. Sometimes he let them walk through empty streets, waiting for their nerves to break on their own. By the 3rd day of fighting, the Zorath had lost more soldiers than in their last 3 campaigns combined. Velrun stood in the middle of a ruined intersection. His armor scratched, his voice sharp. "This human is not a survivor," he told his officers. "He is a predator." And somewhere, hidden in the bones of the city, Alex heard those words and allowed himself a rare smile, because the real hunt had only just begun. The trap. The 4th night fell over New York's ruins. The alien lights still swept the streets. But now they moved slower, cautious, nervous. The city had swallowed too many of them. Velryn's patience was wearing thin. Alex had been waiting for this moment. He knew the signs. The Zoroth were tired. Their patterns were breaking. Their scouting teams wandered too far from each other, and their commander was desperate for a victory. He decided it was time to give them one, or at least make them believe it. It began with a fake transmission. Alex allowed his voice to be picked up by an alien unit. He spoke just loud enough to sound careless. "Subway entrance, 45th Street. I can hold them off for a few more hours." He let static cut the rest of the sentence. Velryn's soldiers locked onto the location instantly. By midnight, half the alien force was moving toward the old subway. The entrance stood in the shadow of a collapsed overpass, rust-covered. Gates creaked in the wind. Velryn watched from the rear, certain this would end the humans' resistance. Inside, the tunnels were cold and silent. The soldiers moved in with weapons ready. Their scanners lit up with false readings, heat signatures here, footsteps there. But when they reached the final platform, Alex was standing in the open, no shadows. No tricks, just him, holding his rifle at his side. His visor reflected their lights. "You've come far," he said, "but not far enough." Before the aliens could react, a deep rumble shook the tunnel. Steel doors slammed shut behind them. Old train cars, rigged with explosives, slid down broken tracks from both ends. The soldiers fired, but the cars didn't stop. The blast tore through the station. Dust and fire swallowed the air. Velryn's comms filled with static and screams. When the smoke cleared, half his forces were gone. The other half trapped behind collapsed tunnels, and Alex was gone. His voice returned to the comms like a whisper. "You should have stayed in the sky," he said. "This city doesn't want you here." Velryn clenched his fists. He had underestimated this human again. And now the hunter had become the hunted in his own mission. Above ground, Alex stood on the roof of a ruined tower. The fires from the tunnels glowed in the distance. The wind carried the sound of alien shouts. He turned away, already planning the next strike, because the trap had worked, and now the real war could begin. The turning point, the city was burning in small places now. Smoke rose from the tunnels where the aliens had fallen. Velryn stood in the ruins of an old police station. The maps on his table were covered in red marks. Each one was a place where his forces had been hit. Each one was a wound on his pride. For the first time in years, Alex allowed himself to walk openly in the streets, not hiding in shadows, not running. The aliens were too busy licking their wounds to notice. He moved toward the heart of the city, toward the signal he had been waiting for. In the dark mouth of an old subway shaft, a figure emerged. Then another, then dozens, men and women in patched armor, some with scavenged alien weapons, some with tools turned into deadly machines. They were the survivors, the ones who had lived underground for a century, and tonight they were ready to fight. Alex looked at them and gave a single nod. This was not his war alone anymore. The city was waking, and the Zoroth were about to learn that humanity's extinction had been a lie. Velryn's forces began a sweep of the east side. They moved cautiously, scanners out, eyes sharp, but what they found was not one man. It was 20, 30, 50, all attacking from different angles. Gunfire and explosions filled the streets. The aliens had no idea which direction to turn. From the roof of a crumbling office tower, Alex spoke into the stolen comms. "You thought you were fighting one human," he said. "You were wrong." Velryn froze at the sound of that voice. The battlefield sounds below told him the truth. This was no longer a hunt, it was a war. The Zoroth line broke for the first time. Their units fell back toward their landing craft. Velryn shouted orders, trying to pull them together, but every alley, every rooftop, every broken window held another human ready to strike. By dawn, the streets were littered with alien wreckage. The survivors stood among the ruins, breathing hard, eyes fierce. Alex stood at the front, his visor reflecting the first light of morning. "This is our world," he said softly. "And we are not leaving." Velryn watched from the shadows of a damaged building. his jaw tight. For the first time since landing, he understood the truth. They had not found an empty world. They had stepped into the heart of something that refused to die. The final stand the sixth day began with silence. No alien patrols moved through the streets. No drones circled the skies. It was the kind of quiet that meant danger. Alex knew it. The survivors knew it. And Velrun was counting on it. From the north, the first shadow fell across the city. A massive Zoroth warship descended. Its engines shook the ground. Its black hull blocked the morning sun. Behind it, smaller ships followed. Dozens of them, all armed for one purpose: to end this fight in a single strike. Alex stood in the ruins of Times Square. The survivors gathered behind him. Some carried rifles. Others held blades made from alien steel. They were tired, but their eyes burned with the same fire. This was where it would end, one way or another. Velrun marched at the head of his army. His golden eyes locked on Alex. "You have fought well," he said. "But today, you fall." Alex didn't answer. He only raised his weapon, and the battle began. The first wave hit like a storm. Alien cannons ripped through the streets. Buildings collapsed in clouds of dust. But the humans did not scatter. They moved as one, using the ruins as cover, striking from every angle. Each explosion was answered with another. Each push was met with steel and fire. Alex fought at the front, his rifle blazing. His movements sharp and fast. He cut through soldiers, dragged wounded survivors to safety, and kept moving. He was everywhere, a shadow in the chaos. Velrun charged forward. Their eyes met across the battlefield. The two commanders moved toward each other, every step bringing them closer. When they clashed, the sound rang through the square, steel against steel, fire against fire, around them. The battle raged, but neither looked away. Velrun struck hard. Alex blocked. Velrun drove him back. Alex countered. Each blow was heavier than the last. Then, a deep rumble shook the ground. From the tunnels below, the human's last weapon rose. An old subway train, armored with steel plates and loaded with explosives. It roared onto the battlefield, cutting through alien lines like a beast of iron. Velrun looked over his shoulder. That single moment was enough. Alex struck. Velrun fell to one knee, and the humans surged forward. The aliens broke. Their lines collapsed. Ships began to lift into the air, retreating toward the black sky. Alex stood in the center of the square, watching them rise. The last warship turned. Velrun's golden eyes met his one final time. No words were spoken, only the truth passed between them. The Zoroth would not forget this day. When the skies cleared, the survivors stood in silence. The wind carried the smell of smoke and steel. Alex lowered his rifle. "This is our world," he said, "and it will stay ours." The sun rose over the city, its light touching broken towers and shattered streets. But for the first time in 100 years, it also touched hope. Asterisk.